So in this video, I want to talk about surface sowing, how to surface sow, just some general tips for when you surface sow anything, not just these seeds, but anything that requires the seeds to be sown on the surface of the soil. Usually, sometimes it will say surface sown, but other times you might see something like 1/8 of an inch or smaller. If you see something stupid like that, it just means surface sown, which means don't cover it. It needs to be just pressed into the soil. In this video, I'm going to be sowing a species kind of tobacco flower. It's the Nicotiana Sanderae, and it is I have one called Perfume Blue and then Perfume White. I really wanted a blue and white. I love blue and yellow and blue and white, and I grow like a rainbow color of annuals really for my main flower bed in my garden in the summer. Once the bulbs are all gone, that's what I did last year, and this year I'm really excited because it's bigger now, or longer, and the elevation is higher, and I'm going to pack a lot more in there, so I wanted like a blue and a white Nicotiana side by side. These only get like 20 inches tall by like 20 inches wide, so they're just perfect for it. They're just profusely covered in flowers all summer long till for our first frost, and they're sweetly fragrant. I love tobacco flowers so much. I can't wait to grow the woodland tobacco flower. I mentioned that in my shade garden video about what Nicotiana that can work for the shade, which would be that Nicotiana sylvestris. But these are surface sown seeds, and one thing that I've noticed about these seeds is that they're really kind of strange looking. By the way, I'm selling these on my Etsy shops for $6 or $7, 3.5-inch planter. You can get one or both. I think the blue and white would look great. These are perfect for containers or your garden. I'm excited to grow these for myself, so I figured I might as well sell these too. But for this is the Nicotiana blue. They look the same. They're always like this green. I grew the Nicotiana. I think it was perfume green. It was a green Nicotiana last summer, and it was just so beautiful and fragrant, and I really love tobacco flower a lot. One other quick tip for tobacco flower, whether you're sowing it from seed or buying a plant, it doesn't matter. BT is probably the most important thing you're going to need on hand because of there are caterpillars, I think. Yeah, the caterpillars. They swarm these things. I mean, they will eat the entire plant if you let them. I don't know if it's like this everywhere, if it's dependent on the climate or the locale, but here in the South, I just know last year I really struggled figuring out how to get the caterpillars to stop eating all of it, to make it kept making it look bad, and I have to wait for it to grow new leaves. They eat the flowers and the leaves. And finally, I read or saw someone using BT, it's just a spray you get, and I have mine upstairs. And you just spray the whole plant with it, and that immediately just stops it. They don't go near it. I don't know if it kills them or not. I just know that they don't go near it once you do that. But you really have to kind of keep after that and do that at least once a week. So I just finished putting the soil in the little planters. I use a regular seed starting mix, an organic seed starting mix with an organic potting soil. I mix them together. Generally, I was just getting rid of some seed starting mix because I only want to use the potting soil. And just an organic potting soil that's just peat and perlite, no added nutrients or chemicals or whatever. Seed starting mixes, to me, I don't get them too much. I know they're still peat based, I think, for the most part, but for me, for some reason, mine have all just been stale. They're powdery. You can't manipulate them as easily. They don't, if you bunch it in your hand, it won't retain its shape. I think that has something to do with the fact that I don't know much about it. I think it's supposed to it stays wet longer. I think maybe that's part of it. I don't know a lot about seed starting mix, or even I'm not really knowledgeable too much about each of these different mediums. I just know what I use. Yeah, so each one has in the tray, the white will have a slightly different medium than the blue that I'm using, but they're both the same. They're just for seed starting. So when you are watering, though, you can water from below. I have them in trays, and I could just pour water in here, and that'll soak the whole thing. And it could even get it a bit too wet, but it's okay. They're going under grow lights. I guess I just wouldn't fill the whole tray up. Or you could do it very slowly if you don't want to get it too soaked. Or you can use a sprayer from above, but you'd have to keep doing that over and over and over again. I found that the best way to really do this, which I didn't do this time, is to pre-soak the medium. Just, gradually add water into a bucket with the medium, mix it together until it's not dripping, water out of your fist, but it is almost that, just still like thoroughly like moist. And just using that is probably the best way to do it, I think. Starting seeds that are surface sown should generally be done indoors. You can start them out, you can direct sow these outside. You would need to cover them, I think. You would need to cover them and really keep after them. I just wouldn't recommend it, you know. Think surface sown seeds, or seeds that are pressed into the surface of the soil or just scattered on top. That's not something you generally do outside, that you direct sow. Like poppies, for example, that's something that can be direct sown, but you're haphazardly just tossing them, sprinkling them around maybe an area outside. That's what I did with my amazing gray poppies that came up. I didn't press them in to the soil. I just scattered them and then watered them in lightly with a mister. And I'm sure some of them blew away or whatever. Others didn't come up, but that's one method of direct sowing something that is surface sown. But generally speaking, this is the kind of thing you want to start indoors under grow lights. For these, for example, I'm starting them under my grow lights, and I would say these germinate in 10 to 20 days. So I would say I have a heat mat too, which changed everything for me. I got a giant heat mat, and it's the whole reason I'm having my candy phlox is just superb this year, and I have so many of them, and I'm selling them, and they're just beautiful, and it's because I have a heat mat. Nice grow lights and a fan and a heat mat. That's it. That's all you need, and I'm telling you, if it's a nice quality grow light and you have a little mini fan to give airflow to the room, and you have a heat mat, there's nothing you can't grow indoors perfectly, really. You could potentially, grow it from seed to its vegetative state onto flowering or fruiting indoors completely. And then there are ways to control humidity and stuff like that. I mean, hell, that's how they do it in like large scale operations in like hoop houses and stuff, or indoors. They control all that stuff themselves, and they have, each different plant has its own very specific method to get it perfect. And that's why you see, like at Lowe's or Home Depot, why they always look so perfect, like when you get them. And it's because it's a formula that is done very specifically in a very certain way. But anyway, yeah, so I'm starting these indoors. I put them under the grow lights at 75 degrees, basically the heat mat, and for 10-20 days they'll germinate. So in about a month, I would say mid-April to late April, I'll be selling them, and I'll have mine moved out, and yeah, they'll be able to transplant sometime in May, I guess. And these will be flowering, I would say. There's April, May, June, like right there by the very end of spring, beginning of summer, these will be in flower. So yeah, let's get started. I'm just gonna do the white right now. I'm gonna wait do the perfume blue off camera. I'm going to put 2 seedlings per, and that's another thing, per one of these planters, I would do 2 to 3 in the, like not next to each other, side by side, but towards the center, so you don't have to like really move the seeds around. I always have to do that. I feel like I need to stop. It's just towards the center is where you want to do that. And you could thin out the other 2. It's just to make sure that you are going to get, each planter will have its own seedling. So if there's I'm doing 12 of the white and 12 of the blue, and I'm going to keep 1 or 2 of the blue and white. So I'll just have 10 to sell. I don't know how popular these are going to be. I probably should sow a good deal more, and I might in the next few days. I'm not sure. Last year, I sold all of the Nicotiana that I had for sale, because I did the same thing with my perfume. I think it's called perfume green Nicotiana. I just kept 1, and I just decided to sow, I think, like a dozen or maybe even 2 dozen. I think it was like close to 30 actually that I did for that one. But I sold every last one of them easily. And it was like crazy to me how certain things people just really, really want to grow, and then other things they're not. Like I have wallflowers that I am obsessed with. Beautiful wallflowers like for sale that nobody cares about. And then other things that I don't think are so interesting. For example, like I love tube roses, don't get me wrong, but people will just buy them things up with a quickness. So there's 12 and 50, so I'm going to do 2 per each one. So I'm just going to take like half the seeds out and keep the other half, because I want to save some. One quick little tidbit. If you're picking up really, really tiny seeds on your palm, what I'll do is just it stays on your finger. I wouldn't do that with a poisonous plant like this. Well, I mean, I don't think it's gonna hurt you, but yeah, if it's a poisonous seed, you might wanna just use water or something. Ooh, I did drop one. So yeah, just now I just literally just dropped them on the surface and lightly pressed them into the soil. You could see two right there in the center. And what I'll do is I'll go over these with a spray bottle and just spray them just to kind of make it settle. And I actually, for my surface sown things, I have a steel tamper. It's something my dad had. I use to tamper on. Generally I do that in the trays. I can't really do that here, but I'll just probably go around with my finger. You just kind of, it can get stuck to your finger, so you might have to, that can be irritating. But just to tamp it down and wet the surface, and then I'll pour water into these trays and water them from beneath, and then just put them under the grow lights. By the way, vermiculite is used to enhance that moisture, to keep it moist longer. It's generally why you might hear in surface sowing to drizzle a layer of vermiculite over the surface of the soil to right on top of those seeds. So surface sown seeds, you can do that. You can also use something like sand, very lightly just cover them with that, and it'll keep the very top of the surface of the soil moist, so it doesn't dry out, like, because these seeds need to, like, that moisture needs to be maintained in order to get them to sprout. Vermiculite can also be added to the soil, I guess, suppose, if you want it to. I don't think that's generally done, but because it could waterlog the soil. Perlite is the opposite of vermiculite in that sense. It's going to help drainage. It helps sucks in water. It's what you would use for something that you would want to drain faster, so that doesn't get waterlogged. That's why you won't see perlite used as much in a seed starting mix. The last thing that I want to mention is the lids, these seed covering trays or domes that you put on top of the black trays. I have a lot of these black trays and a lot of these domes that I've got on like Amazon and stuff. When you're starting seeds indoors or even outdoors, if you're doing it outdoors, it can be a bit trickier unless it's like in a greenhouse. I wouldn't put that out in direct sun. I've melted stuff like that before. Like right now, I put down these domes on top of the trays, and that not only, like with the heat mat, makes the humidity perfect for these seeds to germinate, but it helps retain that moisture. Anyway, I'm gonna finish sowing the perfume blue and go to bed. Thank you for watching, you guys.